So I'm excited to have a new expert on our Choosing Vibrancy channel here, Tilly Storm, and I'll introduce her in just a moment. But I love being able to interview different professionals that have their own perspective of what it means to embrace self care. I love the tagline that self care is not selfish, especially when everyone wins. And I think this is very true in this topic of everyone winning by this type of self care. So Tilly Storm is a sex and intimacy coach. And we haven't had somebody that is talking about sex. It's one of those taboo topics. So I'm really delighted to bring this topic into the light because I think it's truly a topic that is important and near and dear to self care, what that means. I'll definitely have your contact information in the notes so that if people want to reach out to you individually, learn more, they'll be able to go to your website and be in touch with you. So the first thing I had to say, Tilly, it's like your name kind of sounds kind of stormy, kind of, out there in a really fun, playful way. So tell us about how what you do, what is your take on how this is a vital part of self-care?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think a lot of people, think the last place to look and remembering their wholeness or, having a spiritual awakening or experiencing alignment in their life is to take a look at their sexuality. To me, it makes sense because even when you look at ancient traditions, from Tantra and the yogic traditions, and you look at the chakras, your root and your sacral chakra are your base, they're your support. And this is also where we have our sexual energy. And, the fact that people don't tend to look at this as something that might be important in their life to really take a look at and to give attention to kind of blows my mind. But it's very common for people to overlook it.
Sure. Well,
Yeah.
we're so much a part of how we were brought up. And I don't think it's like this outside of the US, but the US it tends to be, it's about, there's a lot of fear and there's a lot of stigmas, obviously, about sexuality and being, and particularly with women, them being comfortable with their sexuality. And yet I think the more confident and the more you know yourself, the more safe and good decisions you make that are loving for yourself and loving for everyone.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, in terms of self-care, we often forget to pay attention to our bodies, to listen to our bodies and what we want and need in the moment.
Mhm.
We're so busy doing all the things, checking off the to-do list that a lot of times what we're feeling inside goes unnoticed because we're not paying attention. But the body is such a resource to help you tune in and to listen to, oh, what is good for me right now? How can I infuse my life with more pleasure and fun and play right now?
Mhm.
But we're often not looking for that because we're just so trained to be in our heads and our logical thinking minds,
Right.
and just to really, be in that space where we're constantly doing. But when we pay attention to the body and where our pleasure is, that actually leads us to more of what we want.
Mhm. Absolutely. I can see that very much. Tell us about some of the women that you've helped. And I'm assuming I'm directing this at women. I don't know if you work with men or not, but I'm assuming it's mostly women centric.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we have a podcast called The Multi-Orgasmic Mama. We work mostly with women, 30 to 55, 60 years old, who have older kids or, empty nesters and who just really want to reclaim their body and sexuality. A lot of them have been in relationships for a long time, and things have gotten a little stale, or maybe since having kids, their desire for sex and pleasure has just kind of gone by the wayside because they've gotten so uh, identified with the mom identity and being a mom and being good at it and doing all the things. And they tend to forget about this whole area of their life. So a lot of the women that come to us and are in our group program have, forgotten about that and feel like they've achieved in every other area of their life, but there's like this elephant in the room when it comes to their sex life.
Mhm.
They're either just not having it, or they're pushing their partner away, or they're just constantly saying yes because they feel like it's their obligation or their duty, but it's never really for them.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
yeah, that's very, very common, and that's what we see a lot of.
Mhm. Mhm. And so what are some of your success stories with somebody that is coming to you? I mean, I think when somebody reaches out, when you say they're not paying attention or they've forgotten about it, I have to say, I don't think that they, on some level, have forgotten about it. I think it's one of those deeply, repressed, if you will, kinds of, it's a basic need to have intimacy. And so I think that's part of the whole energetic gift of working on in this area, is that it's not really forgotten. It's pushed aside,
Mhm.
and it takes energy. When you repress anything, there's a lot of energy that goes into keeping it down, so to speak, right? And
Yeah.
so when you can give light to it, there's more energy. There's more, because you're not carrying that around.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, I recorded a whole private podcast series on my website, and it's a 5 episode series, for epic sex and pleasure for high achieving moms. But one of the episodes is on that topic itself, like why, you're always so tired and how you can get your energy back. And part of it is because it's like we've got this pot of boiling water, and we're constantly repressing and suppressing our emotions and what we're feeling every day. I mean, there's so many ways. It's so easy to numb out and check out in our life these days with the screens and the Netflix and the wine, all the things. And when we're constantly repressing, numbing out, it's like that pot of boiling water just, it starts to fester. And it's just like, if you could just take the lid off, it would be so much easier for you if you
Right.
just allow yourself to feel your emotions and what you're feeling. But most people are too afraid to do that.
Hmm.
They don't have the emotional courage to really feel their emotions, and they don't have the skills or the techniques
Right.
of how to move through them, because they're scared that they're going to get stuck in them. And
Hmm.
it's not about getting stuck in them and being in a dark black hole forever. It's about transmuting and alchemizing the uncomfortable feelings and emotions to
Hmm.
more light, more energy, more vibrancy. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. So it's a safe place
Yeah.
for women to be able to explore what's been going on, what they've been feeling, and how to move through that, and how to pay attention to it more, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Exactly.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So give us we love tips here. So we love to, because I'm all about empowering women, and them, really it's about them being empowered with information. So can you share a tip or two on how does a woman, you know what do they do that they can kind of explore a little bit on their own, of what of how, kind of how to open this place up that has been maybe pushed down.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's definitely some starter things that I like to tell people that they can do before, they ever even consider working with me. But,
Mhm.
it just kind of depends on your background. There's so much negative conditioning we have. If you grew up religious around our bodies and our sex, that it can be so repressed, you don't even know that it is repressed, or
Mhm.
that you think, this is just how it is, but you don't know any better about what could be. So just
Mhm.
giving yourself a pleasure education is a really great place to start. You can go listen to the Multi-Orgasmic Mama podcast. There's like 200 plus episodes on there. You'll learn so much. Just that most
Okay.
women, they think, oh, I have clitoral orgasms. Great. Well, that's awesome. But did you know there were 7 different other types of orgasms you can have? So just
Mhm.
a lot of women don't know what they don't know. So just giving
Sure.
yourself a basic education about why is pleasure important? Why does this matter in my life? Why should I prioritize it? It can be pretty eye-opening just to recognize that, well,
Mhm.
pleasure is actually for you. It's not for your partner. It's to fuel you, to nourish you, to energize you. But we're told the complete opposite. So most people just have no idea why it's even important to them.
Mhm, mhm. Well, that sounds like a good tip, is to go to this podcast that is women talking honestly about how they have discovered more pleasure in their life. And that's a real safe place, because I get that this is going to be a topic that for some people it might be a trigger. It might make them uncomfortable and not want to just immediately be out with, what's going on with them.
Yeah.
So I think maybe, listening, having a safe place of listening to this podcast. So I'll be sure to post that um, site so that they can do that.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
Yeah. It's on any podcasting app,
Okay.
Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, all the things.
Are you unique? I mean, are there other intimacy and sexual podcasts like this, or is this pretty unique? I'm curious.
Oh no, there's tons.
Tons.
There are
Okay.
tons. There
Okay.
are tons of sex podcasts, but there
Not
are,
porn though. This is not about, linking this with porn, because that's another stigma, is that this is just about fake, you know, watching people have sex that's completely fake and not real. This is not that, right?
yeah,
This is true intimacy. This is about how to really connect with yourself. And the more you're connected with yourself and your own, what makes you happy and pleasurable and feel empowered, the more you're going to be able to be present for a partner if you have one. And if you don't, it's okay, because you still want to find ways to have pleasure for yourself with or without a
exactly.
partner.
Yep. Self
Okay.
pleasure is a big deal for the single ladies.
Absolutely. Well, or it may be not even a single lady. It could be,
Yep.
but
Both.
right.
It's important for you to have that as part of your life, whether you're in a relationship or not, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. Awesome. Well, thank you for chatting with me. I appreciate you bringing this to light, because it's a super important part. And I think very much an essence of self care.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you for having me.